Chapter 81 Mission Anbu in expectation standing on the roof wearing a mask under the blood moon to lock onto the target's position, seize 7 and kill 7, leaving no one alive. Anbu in reality patrol around the village every day, rain or shine, chat and drink tea, and discuss what to eat at noon. Ryosuke felt that he was somewhat young and ignorant. He was still looking forward to it. Bah! His feelings were wasted. Seeing the speechless Ryosuke, Black Fang and the others also laughed. It's almost like this every time a newcomer comes. Every newcomer will have an imagination about Anbu's work, and their imagination is often quite different from the reality. Yeah, don't be disappointed. In fact, we occasionally receive missions like assassination, but the frequency is not high. Tengu smiled and patted Ryosuke on the shoulder and said. Ryosuke didn't want to talk anymore. He had sympathized with Naruto and pitied that they had to do boring tasks such as weeding and finding pets every day, but he himself had to patrol the outskirts of the village every day. Lunch break at noon. Anbu's lunch break is plenty. A full 2 hours. During these 2 hours, they can eat and rest for a while. Chat, or exchange training experience with teammates and the like. And Ryosuke ran to Anbu's public training ground after having lunch. It's not that Ryosuke came here to practice. In fact, in the number 4 training ground at this time, there are 500 of his shadow clones who are working hard to train. Ryosuke himself can become stronger while lying down. It's just that he has some requirements for himself, so he usually follows the practice together. But, Ryosuke did not come to practice today. He's here to find material. How big is Anbu's public training ground? Is the number 1 training ground outside big enough? It is open to all ninjas in the village. As long as you apply, you can basically pass. And Anbu's own public training ground is not much smaller than the No. 1 training ground outside, it is a forest of almost the same size. Moreover, the environment of the Anbu public training ground is even more dangerous. Only ninjas with sufficient professional knowledge and strength can survive here. Ryosuke also came to Anbu's public training ground for the first time. As soon as he entered, he met a black bear with a shoulder height of more than 2 meters. The black bear roared and charged forward. Its huge size and width did not affect its speed at all. Bear, how did you know I'm not full? Ryosuke laughed and rushed forward and punched the black bear directly on the head. Crack! The skull was directly crushed by his punch. The huge black bear fell to the ground and slid 5 or 6 meters before stopping. Ryosuke turned around, picked up the black bear's body, and sealed it in the storage space in his palm. A few minutes later, Ryosuke stood on a tree surrounded by more than a dozen people, and saw an Anbu ninja practicing there from a distance. The related person did not notice Ryosuke. After observing for a while, Ryosuke determined that the strength of this Anbu ninja should have reached the level of Jonin. So he released an insect that looked like a grasshopper. If you look carefully, you will find that the eyes of this grasshopper-like insect are blood red, and there are 5 black sickle patterns in it. Go ahead and bring me back what I want. Ryosuke watched the grasshopper go by. A grasshopper wouldn't go unnoticed by an Anbu ninja of Jonin level, but they wouldn't care. It was just a grasshopper after all. Then, Ryosuke easily used this grasshopper controlled by his Sharingan to get a drop of that Anbu ninja's blood. The opponent's hand that beat the stump with skin so bleeding was normal. Done, move on to the next one. Ryosuke disappeared from the tree, looking for the next target again. In the 2-hour break at noon, Ryosuke went out for half an hour to eat at the beginning, and spent the next hour and a half in the public training ground looking for the right person. He found a total of 16 Anbu ninjas practicing in the public training ground. Among them, 5 were Jonin, 4 special Jonin, and the other 7 were Chunin. And Ryosuke also collected a lot of biological pheromones such as hair and blood. All of them were stored in the system's biological pheromone warehouse. The 7th class training ground. Ryosuke arrived at the last minute before the end of the lunch break. Yugao glanced at him, and then said, "Everyone is here, follow me now." "Captain, is there a mission?" Tengu asked curiously. Yugao nodded and walked ahead without saying a word. Yeah, you are lucky, you encountered this kind of mission on the second day of your arrival," Tengu said to Ryosuke with a smile. In the morning, Ryosuke was still complaining about Anbu's boring work, but he came to find that there was task in the afternoon. May all your wishes come true. Soon, Yugao brought the 7th squad to an open field. There were already quite a few Anbu squads gathered here. With the addition of their 7th squad, exactly 4 squads had arrived. Standing in front was an Anbu ninja wearing a cat mask. "That's our team leader," Tengu said in a low voice. Ryosuke nodded. The team leaders generally have the strength of an elite jonin. And the previous captain of the second team was Kakashi. "Everyone follow me, I will tell you about the mission on the way." The team leader glanced at the Anbu members present with a pair of white eyes, and his tone was very serious. It could be seen that he had really encountered a big task. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dispatched the entire Anbu team. This is a terrible situation. The entire team is involved. This is at least an A-rank mission. Tengu beside him muttered softly. Ryosuke glanced at him, not sure if he was really worried, or if he was fooling him on purpose. After all, Ryosuke already knew that this guy was a ninja from the Sarutobi clan. It is basically certain that he is the person Sarutobi Hiruzen arranged to monitor him. Therefore, the possibility of acting was not ruled out. Set off. The team leader gave an order again, and instantly all the Anbu members of the second team disappeared in place. Chapter 82, Bonus Chapter, Assassination Attempt. Village Entrance. Ryosuke found that the Anbu did not need to show the village guards a certificate when going out of the village to perform the mission. The guards who were in charge of guarding the gate of the village didn't stop them. Instead, they watched their brigade disappear, with curious expressions on their faces. "There are so many Anbu dispatched, what happened?" The 2 guards thought curiously. A few minutes later, Ryosuke and the others have arrived some distance away from the village. At this time, the team leader told them the situation of the mission. "Our goal this time is to recover the village's confidential information. The opposite side is suspected to be ninjas from the Land of Thunder. Everyone, be careful. This time the mission can only succeed and not fail." He announced loudly for the first time, and then continued to lead the crowd to start tracking the target. Half an hour later, he stopped for the second time. "The target has separated, so we will also separate," he said. Then with a finger, he let the people of the 4 teams disperse and track the target from 4 directions. "Purple, you come with me," he finally said to Yugao and their team. Yugao nodded and had no opinion. She knew very well why he had made such an arrangement. It was because the other 3 squads were led by official jonin, and only their 7th squad's leader had only special jonin level strength. That's why they should follow the team leader with the strength of an elite jonin. Set off. The team leader led the team of the 7th class, and followed a trace on the left. On the way, Ryosuke looked at the team leader in front of him. The other party should be a member of the branch house of the Hyuga clan. With the strength of an elite jonin, he also belongs to the elite class among the Hyuga clan members. But, the branch house of the Hyuga family has no human rights. They can only obey the orders of the main family. Even if the other party is just an ordinary jonin, or even just a chunin. As long as they are members of the Hyuga clan, they have to be obedient. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but Ryosuke felt that the Hyuga clansmen in front of him seemed to be watching him several times just now. Once or twice, it may still be a coincidence. But after 5 or 6 times, Ryosuke became suspicious. This guy knows me. Is he from the Root faction who came to assassinate me? Ryosuke thought jokingly. Wait. It seems that this possibility is not small. As we all know, what Danzo likes to do most is to dig out talented ninjas from the village, and then fool them to join the route to serve him. There are many ninjas under him from various major ninja clans. In addition to not having a Sarutobi clan member, there are even ninjas from Koharu and Hamura's clans. And what Danzo likes most are those ninjas who have bloodline succession limits. But the Uchiha were too arrogant to be used by him. So, he settled for the next best thing. It is quite normal for Danzo to focus on the Hyuga clan. After all, the Hyuga clan has a main and branch house system, which makes it easier for him to confuse those branch house ninjas. Although the existence of the caged bird makes the fate of the ninjas of the branch house of the Hyuga clan be controlled by the main house. But as long as Danzo says something, is it possible that the Hyuga will go against him, the leader of Root? Therefore, among the Roots led by Danzo, there are some ninjas from the branch house of the Hyuga clan. Even, this Hyuga clansman was also a member who was recruited by Danzo. Is Danzo planning to attack me so soon? Ryosuke thought to himself. But, Ryosuke was not worried about his safety. The ninjas that Danzo can send out to assassinate him should be of elite jonin level at most. It is impossible for a Kage-level ninja to be sent to assassinate him. Not to mention that Danzo has no such talent at all. Even if there was, it wouldn't be dispatched. And Ryosuke has long ignored a few elite jonins. Even if Ryosuke stands still and lets them hit him, they can't kill him. A B-rank ninjutsu performed by a chunin can only make Ryosuke feel a little uncomfortable, but it can't break his defense at all. So, even with an elite jonin, the best they can do is cause some minor injuries to him. And with the recovery ability of Ryosuke, this degree of injury can be recovered in the blink of an eye. If they want to kill him, they will need some powerful ninjutsu. For example, Kakashi's Raikiri has extremely strong penetrating power, and can directly break through the defense of Ryosuke, and even hurt his internal organs. But most elite jonin actually don't have this kind of lethality. After all, not everyone is a genius like Kakashi who can create ninjutsu like Raikiri himself. What's more, Ryosuke will not really stand still and let them fight. He is not a statue. 10 minutes later. The team leader in front stopped suddenly. What's the matter, team leader? Yugao asked. Be careful. There is an ambush ahead. The team leader said in a low voice. They're coming, fast. What? Yugao and the others were startled. On the other hand, Ryosuke seemed very calm, as if he had expected it a long time ago. After a while, several figures sprang out from the forest. All they did was attack Ryosuke and the other 6. Especially Ryosuke, who was directly targeted by the 2 ninjas on the opposite side. I'll hold them back, you go. The team leader held off 3 opposing ninjas whose strength had reached the level of a jonin by himself. Then he yelled at Yugao and the others, telling them to leave quickly. Squad leader, but... Yugao was still hesitating about whether to leave or not. At this time, the team leader shouted loudly, and directly used the 8 trigrams air palm to force the 3 jonins on the opposite side back. Go! This is an order. He yelled. This time, Yugao did not hesitate any longer. You go first. She yelled at Tengu and the 3 of them. Then she rushed to Ryosuke. Captain! Black Fang yelled. Stop yelling, let's go over and find other people for support immediately, Captain, and the others can hold on. Tengu pulled Black Fang, and then flew towards the distance directly. Black Fang and Shadow also shook their heads when they saw it, and followed. Captain, yeah, you must hold on. Chapter 83 Exposed, Captain, why don't you go? Ryosuke knocked away several flying shurikens with one blow, then turned his head and said to Yugao, who had come to help him. If I leave, what about you? Yugao said something, and then instantly drew her sword and fought with a ninja on the opposite side. Yeah, run as soon as you find an opportunity. Yugao fought for a few moves with the ninja on the opposite side, and found that the opponent's swordsmanship level was higher than her own. She could hold on for a while, but if the battle lasts a long time, she was almost certain to lose. Captain, what are you talking about? Ryosuke pulled the sword out of the ninja's neck across from him. The blood on the blade was still dripping down the tip. Yugao. You're already done with him. Is your opponent so weak? Yugao was a veteran ninja, but at this moment, she couldn't help being stunned by this wave of operations by Ryosuke. Fortunately, it wasn't just her who was stunned, but also the ninja opposite her. Otherwise, even if it was just a moment of stupefaction, it would be enough to make her die more than once. Yeah, you. Yugao didn't know what to say for a while. At this time, another Ryosuke appeared behind the opposite ninja. Puff! The sword instantly pierced the man's chest and his heart was stabbed. This ninja never thought that Ryosuke would sneak attack at this time until his death. Besides, he didn't realize at all that the Ryosuke on the opposite side was just a clone. Boom! Another Ryosuke disappeared instantly. Yugao looked at him in surprise. Captain, don't be dazed, let's go. Ryosuke directly took Yugao's little hand, and instantly swept towards the depths of the forest. The other side, Hyuga Nakaji, who was still trying to hold back the three ninjas on the opposite side, looked back at this time and found that the other two ninjas had been killed. The original target Ryosuke had also disappeared. Trash! Hurry up! His face darkened for the first time, and he simply stopped acting. Let's chase together, we must not let Ryosuke escape. The task entrusted by Lord Danzo must not fail. The three ninjas on the opposite side are actually root ninjas. And their task is to cooperate with Hyuga Nakaji to find a chance to kill the target Ryosuke this time. And bring back the dead body of the target. It's just that an accident happened just after the mission started. Then, the four immediately chased after Ryosuke. The three root ninjas all have Jonin level strength. And Hyuga Nakaji is an elite Jonin. Their speed is naturally much faster than Ryosuke, who is only at the Chunin level in the data. But after chasing for a while, they found that they couldn't catch up with Ryosuke, who was running away. Damn! The information is wrong, the target is not a Chunin at all. Hyuga Nakaji had been locking onto the position of the target in front of him with the Byakugan. He found that no matter how hard they chased, the distance between the two sides had not been shortened at all, and had even been increased by a little bit. This made him secretly scold the people in the intelligence department, because they didn't understand the real strength of the target at all. Is this really Chunin? Can a Chunin run faster than an elite Jonin? What the hell is up with a person? Just when he was cursing the intelligence department, the two people in front suddenly stopped. Can't run anymore. He frowned, feeling that this was not the case. But when he wanted to stop to remind the three root ninjas to be careful, the three of them rushed up without hesitation. These idiots! He cursed secretly, and could only give up to accompany them to chase after Ryosuke. But he also wondered what was happening. Because within the observation range of his Byakugan, there were only the chakra fluctuations of Ryosuke and Yugao. There was no third person. That is to say, there is no possibility of someone planning an ambush here. But the reason why they didn't run away was impossible to find out no matter how he looked at it. It can't be that these two people suddenly don't want to run away after running for a while, and plan to fight back, right? He admits that Ryosuke is far more powerful than he imagined. At the age of 12, he already has the strength of a formal Jonin. But no matter how strong he is it possible that he can counterkill 3 official Jonin plus an elite Jonin? Not to mention, there are 3 teammates behind them who are still on their way. No matter how you look at it, it is impossible to lose. Unless there is some ninja who can block his Byakugan's perception lying in ambush over there. Are there any ninjas like that? Anyway, he has never heard of it, let alone encountered it. In an open space. Ryosuke let go of Yugao, who had been in his arms just now. Yeah, why aren't you running away? Yugao asked suspiciously. Although she was surprised by Ryosuke's speed just now, why did he stop suddenly when he was still running? It's almost time to end this farce. I'll just end them here. As Ryosuke said, he reached out and took off the mask on his face. Ryosuke, are you crazy? Yugao couldn't understand what Ryosuke was doing. Sister Yugao, of course I'm not crazy, but no matter what you see later, don't tell anyone other than you and me. This is a little secret between the two of us, okay? Yugao. Ryosuke, wouldn't you, sure. Here they come. Ryosuke said suddenly. Then, he looked over there. Swish. 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 3 figures landed in front of the two without distinction. Then a second or two later, Hyuga Nakaji, still in Anbu uniform, arrived. Squad leader, what are you doing? Yugao stared at Hyuga Nakaji who was standing with the Kumo ninjas in disbelief. Sister Yugao, are you confused why our squad leader is standing with these Kumo ninjas? Ryosuke said with a faint smile. Yugao nodded subconsciously. She really couldn't understand. Actually, they're not Kumo ninjas at all, am I right? Ryosuke looked at the 3 root ninjas who were disguised as Kumo ninjas. 3 ninjas from the root organization, do you want to continue acting? Chapter 84 Yugao's doubts. The faces of the 3 root ninjas on the opposite side remained unchanged, and they did not get angry because their identities were revealed. The root ninjas led by Danzo are almost a group of killing machines. They have been trained since they were young to abandon their personal feelings and put Shimura Danzo's order first. At the same time, they were also planted with a tongue curse, so that even if they betrayed Danzo, they would not be able to reveal any secrets about Root and Danzo. When did you find out? Compared to the 3 emotionless root ninjas who were like puppets, Hyuga Nakaji had only just recently been recruited by Danzo. In essence, he was different from these root ninjas. He was not quite loyal to Danzo yet. Therefore, Hyuga Nakaji looked at Ryosuke with a look of surprise at this moment, wondering when this kid has seen through all this. I didn't notice it at first, but you watched me secretly several times, and I realized that you might have a problem. Ryosuke said. As for them? Ryosuke smiled and said, does someone need a reason to doubt Shimura Danzo? It is not without reason that there are so many allegations on Danzo. Anyway, as long as this kind of thing is encountered in Konoha, he would directly suspect that Shimura Danzo, and he would be correct 9.5 times out of 10. But apparently Hyuga Nakaji didn't know about this. So he couldn't understand the words of Ryosuke, and he could only think that Danzo had sent someone to find Ryosuke before. That's why he was alerted. Forget it, no matter how you found out, it's too late to say anything now. Hyuga Nakaji didn't bother to continue thinking about such meaningless questions. Anyway, as long as he kills Ryosuke and lets the root ninjas take his body back, his mission will be considered complete. As a member of the branch house of the Hyuga family, Hyuga Nakaji knew from a young age that if he didn't find a backer, sooner or later he would die for his family like other branch house members. He didn't want his life to be like this. So he found Danzo and voluntarily followed him, the leader of the root organization. Although the best backer in Konoha is Sarutobi Hiruzen, Lord Hokage. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen will not take action for a member of the branch house of the Hyuga clan at all. But Danzo is different. Because he couldn't buy off the ninjas of the main family of the Hyuga clan, he could only settle for the next best thing and set his sights on them branch house ninjas. Then, he used his own status to blackmail the Hyuga family, not allowing them to continue to use Caged Bird to control these branch house ninjas who had taken refuge in him. The Hyuga family was definitely not happy about this. But they couldn't do anything. In Konoha, Hokage and the elders are the ones who have the right to speak. So what if they're as strong as the Uchiha? If they are disobedient, they will be exterminated directly. To be honest, the matter of the Uchiha's genocide really frightened the other ninja families in Konoha. Since the Uchiha clan was exterminated, other ninja families had become much more honest. One by one, they no longer dared to raise any doubts about some of Sarutobi Hiruzen's decisions for fear that it would be their turn next. Under such a big environment, when Danzo asks for some branch house ninjas, can the Hyuga clan not agree? Do they dare to disagree? Hyuga Nakaji was just one of the many ninjas who had taken refuge in Danzo. And him being a part of Root was a secret. His identity had not been revealed. Otherwise, he couldn't be Anbu's squad leader. Hiruzen certainly wouldn't put Danzo's men in high positions in Anbu. He wouldn't do this when the two of them were on friendly terms before. Not to mention, Hiruzen was now working to suppress Danzo's influence in the village. Ryosuke, what the hell is going on here? Yugao didn't call Ryosuke's Anbu code name. The people in front of her all knew his real name. Hyuga Nakaji, the team leader, and these three Root ninjas disguised as Kumo ninja, obviously all came for Ryosuke. Now that it's all said and done, what else is there to hide? It's nothing, it's just that a certain Dark Kage has lost his mind. Ryosuke taunted. Dark Kage? Does Konoha have this Kage? Isn't there only Hokage? Yugao found that she couldn't understand some of Ryosuke's vocabulary. He said earlier that there was no need to find a reason to doubt Shimura Danzo, but now he was talking about Dark Kage. She was really confused. In short, Sister Yugao, you just need to know that these guys came to kill me under the order of Shimura Danzo. Ryosuke said. Yugao nodded, she could still understand this. But why? I'll explain this later, let's deal with these guys first. Ryosuke said. Hearing this, Hyuga Nakaji on the opposite side also took off his mask for the first time, revealing a face of a middle-aged man in his 30s. He sneered and said, "Get rid of us." Ryosuke, I admit that you are a genius, but you are too conceited, right? Don't think that with a little talent, you are invincible. Boy. You still have a lot to learn. Hyuga Nakaji sneered a few times, then threw away his mask casually. He waved his hand, and the three Root ninjas rushed up instantly. Just let the three of them attack. Forget it, it doesn't make any difference anyway. Ryosuke shook his head slightly, then showed some of his speed. He disappeared instantly, and appeared in front of the three Root ninjas. Bang bang. At face-to-face, Ryosuke grasped a Root ninja's kunai with his palm. The sharp kunai tried to pierce his palm, but it could not even scratch his skin. Ryosuke kicked one of the Root ninja's hands instantly with a side kick, and the opponent's entire two arms exploded in an instant, and countless flesh and bones mixed with bone fragments splashed out. Finally, a Root ninja wanted to make seals to release ninjutsu. In the eyes of Ryosuke, the speed at which he was making hand seals was as slow as a snail. Ryosuke directly grabbed his two arms, broke them lightly, and with a click, his arm bones broke in two. Chapter 85, Bonus Chapter, Aburame Torune Boom. With a kick in the chest, this Root ninja was instantly kicked out by Ryosuke. In just a moment, Ryosuke pulled back and returned to the spot. As for the three Root ninjas rushing up from the opposite side, except for one who was holding a kunai and looking at him in surprise seeing that there were no wounds on his body, the other two were already miserable. Especially the one whose hands were directly kicked by Ryosuke. He was screaming and rolling on the ground, dying of pain. System, if the original owner of the biological pheromones I collected dies, can the biological pheromones I collected before be used? Ryosuke suddenly asked the system in his heart. He was thinking about this just now. The Root ninjas in front of him, as well as the member of the Hyuga branch house, are undoubtedly good transformation targets. If they are killed like this, and then the talent entries on them cannot be transformed, it would be a pity. But if he doesn't kill them, that's not okay. Ryosuke was thinking that the biological pheromone required by the system must be obtained from living people. Then if he obtains it from a living person first, and then kills the person. Does that count? As long as the biological pheromone is obtained from a living target, no matter whether the living target is alive or not, it can be effectively transformed. The system quickly responded. Is that so? That's good. Ryosuke nodded, satisfied with the answer. In this case, in the future, as long as he first obtains biological pheromone from a living target, whether this person dies later or not will have nothing to do with him. Anyway, a person can only be used to transform a talent entry once. It doesn't matter if they are dead. After knowing this situation, things would now be easier to handle. In the split-second fight just now, Ryosuke had already obtained the biological pheromones from the 3 root ninjas on the opposite side. At this moment, they had been stored in the system's biopheromone warehouse. Now, only this elite jonin from the Hyuga branch house was left. In fact, this guy was the real target of Ryosuke. The 3 root ninjas were at most just an extra. As for the other 2 root ninjas with special jonin level strength, Ryosuke didn't think much of them. And they died too fast just now, and he didn't have time to take away their biological pheromones first. Ryosuke felt that he had to reflect on himself, no matter what, at least he had to get a sample of biopheromone from the other party first. Then he can kill them whenever he wants. Excuse me, what did you just say? What else do I have to learn? Ryosuke said to Hyuga Nakaji with a smile. What the hell is this kid? What kind of monster is he? At the age of 12, a face-to-face victory against 2 official jonins? Even Hatake Kakashi back then was not so awesome. At this moment, Hyuga Nakaji was already a little panicked. He suddenly realized that things seemed to be completely out of his control. The opponent's strength was not what they had thought at all. Even stronger than what he had just thought. With this kind of taijutsu, even if a taijutsu-type elite jonin of the village faces him, they would not last even a few seconds, but the problem is, Ryosuke is just a 12-year-old kid. Hyuga Nakaji thought about his strength when he was 12 years old. He was also a genius in ninja school back then. With excellent grades, he graduated from ninja school ahead of schedule at the age of 10, was promoted to chunin at the age of 12, and became an official jonin at the age of 18. He always thought that he was a genius. In Hyuga Nakaji's opinion, even the Hyuga Niji praised by many people in the branch house was not as good as himself in terms of talent. He became an elite jonin at the age of 27 and performed thousands of missions, large and small. There are many S-rank missions among them. But, this talent, compared with Ryosuke in front of him is not even a grain of sand. 12-year-old elite jonin, how the hell can he compare? But fortunately, Hyuga Nakaji still had helpers, and they had arrived. Thinking to himself, Hyuga Nakaji's eyes also looked to the rear right. There are 3 figures coming towards this side quickly. After a few seconds, 3 figures landed on the open space. As soon as the root ninjas came, they saw the 2 root ninjas on the ground who were screaming that they would rather die, and they couldn't help frowning. As one of Danzo's right-hand men, Aburame Torune is different from ordinary root ninjas. He has his own thoughts, but he respects and admires Danzo from the bottom of his heart and is willing to sacrifice his life for Danzo. This time, Danzo personally handed over this task to him and asked him to do it. Originally, he took the root members and considered that Ryosuke was a civilian genius valued by Sarutobi Hiruzen, so he had already made very sufficient preparations. Just now he took the other 2 root jonins, to deal with the other 3 members of the 7th squad. At this moment, Black Fang and the others had been knocked out and tied up. They made sure they didn't go to other Anbu members to ask for support. Coupled with the fact that Hyuga Nakaji, who no one knows has taken refuge in Danzo, this should be a foolproof plan. But now, things seem to have taken some unexpected turns. How is it going? Aburame Torune looked at Hyuga Nakaji and asked. Your information is wrong, Ryosuke is not a chunin at all, but has elite jonin level strength. He's a little monster. Hyuga Nakaji said in a dissatisfied tone. If it wasn't for the fact that the root's information was wrong, he wouldn't have led people to intercept and kill Ryosuke just now with full confidence. Fortunately, he didn't attack himself just now. Otherwise, if he was careless, he might really have capsized in the gutter. Elite Jonin? This brat? Aburame Torune looked at Hyuga Nakaji in disbelief, and then at Ryosuke, who smiled and looked at them. This brat. He doesn't seem to be nervous at all. What's going on? Are you? Aburame Torune? At this time, Yugao, who was on the side, suddenly looked at him and asked. Oh. You know me? He looked at her. Chapter 86 Danger. Yugao nodded and said, at the ninja school, I was 1 grade senior than you, and I often saw you sitting alone in the corner of the school playground at that time. Hearing this, he laughed at himself and said, What? You think I'm very pitiful? Yugao opened her mouth, not knowing how to answer this question, because she really pitied Aburame Torune at the time. Don't sympathize with me, because I have found my purpose in life. Now, Lord Danzo's will is my will, so as long as it is what Lord Danzo has ordered, I must complete it. He took a look at Yugao. He had seen these eyes countless times, and he was already used to it. Pity? He does not need it. What he wants is approval and faith. And Lord Danzo is his faith. Aburame Torune. Ryosuke had also heard of this guy, who was the same as the taciturn Aburame Shino in their class, and Ryosuke also heard Aburame Shino occasionally mention this guy's name. And, according to Shino, the other party had a very special ability even among the Aburame clan. Generally, the bugs controlled by the Aburame clan are just ordinary parasites. But this guy is different. His body is full of highly poisonous phosphorus destruction insects. Phosphorus destruction insects are much more lethal than ordinary insects, so even he couldn't control them 100% by himself, and he would accidentally injure people around him from time to time. This also led to the fact that he had no friends since childhood. Everyone would stay away from him and think he was a monster. This treatment was a bit similar to Naruto, but Naruto's situation was worse than his. At least he was only rejected by people, but Naruto was insulted, and even stones were thrown at him. Unlike Naruto's positive personality, Aburame Torune was a very taciturn person. In Yugao's memory, she hardly ever heard the other party speak. And after graduating from the ninja school, he had completely disappeared from the sight of the people around him. Little was known about how and when he had joined the route. Probably only the senior officials of the Aburame clan would know that he was asked to leave by Danzo. Although he was younger than Yugao, his strength was far superior to Yugao's. The special phosphorus destruction insects that live in his body give him terrifying lethality. Even just touching it is enough to kill a person. This is a pretty tough guy. He is extremely powerful even among elite jonin. In addition, he is accompanied by Hyuga Nakaji, the ninja of the Hyuga clan who is also an elite jonin. Even quasi-Kage level ninjas have to be careful when encountering this duo. If one is not careful, they may capsize in the gutter. Ryosuke, this Aburame Torune has phosphorus destruction insect which is highly poisonous, even touching it is enough to kill a person, you must be careful. At this time, Yugao knew that she couldn't help at all. Her strength is even weaker than any root jonin on the opposite side. She couldn't even deal with them, let alone helping Ryosuke deal with elite jonins like Aburame Torune and Hyuga Nakaji. So she can only provide some information to Ryosuke, so that he can be psychologically prepared when he fights. Don't worry, Sister Yugao. Ryosuke said with a smile, however, Sister Yugao, you'd better stay away. After all, the aftermath of the battle may be a bit large. Yugao nodded, and after a word of caution, she retreated towards the rear. After Yugao was gone, Ryosuke looked at these people on the opposite side and said, Okay, do you have any last words now? Aburame Torune looked at him coldly and waved. The two root jonins beside him dispersed instantly, attacking Ryosuke from left and right directions. At the same time, he also shot together with Hyuga Nakaji, one in front and one behind, they surrounded Ryosuke in the middle. Looks like it's gone. Ryosuke smiled slightly. Next second, his hands quickly formed seals. Fire release, Phoenix Fire Technique. Dozens of huge fireballs were blown from the mouth of Ryosuke. Each fireball was ridiculously large. With a diameter of more than 4 meters, it was even bigger than the Great Fireball. Is this really the Phoenix Fire Technique? The opposite route ninja couldn't help but widen his eyes. Boom! There was a loud noise, and a huge fireball hit the ground, causing a violent explosion. A large area of flame spread. A few root ninjas were so scared that they immediately used ninjutsu to resist. Water release, water barrier. Wind release, crush. Ha! This was a wind release that he had not copied yet. Ryosuke noticed the ninjutsu performed by one of the root ninjas and immediately copied it with Sharingan. In the next second, huge fireballs hit the water barrier one after another. The high temperature and explosion directly evaporated the large water curtain. The root ninja behind the water barrier drew back with a pale face and watched helplessly as one after another fireballs broke through the water barrier and bombarded the place where he was originally standing. In an instant, the ground was blasted into big pits with a diameter of 5 or 6 meters. Is this the kind of damage a C-rank fire release can do? The root ninjas even wondered if he was wrong. In fact, this is not the Phoenix Fire Technique at all, but another A-rank fire release ninjutsu similar to the Phoenix Fire Technique. No. A normal A-rank fire release doesn't seem to have such power, does it? This is almost catching up with the destructive power of an S-rank ninjutsu. Amidst the explosion, Ryosuke, who was standing there, suddenly fell to the ground, twitching all over his body, and even foaming at the mouth. He has powerful ninjutsu, but if he doesn't know how to use it, it's useless. Aburame Torune appeared behind Ryosuke out of nowhere. He looked down at Ryosuke who was twitching on the ground, with a slight smile on the corner of his mouth. Take the root ninja, be careful. At this time, on the other side, Hyuga Nakaji who cast 8 trigrams air palm to blow up the fireball, suddenly found something, and shouted loudly. But Hyuga Nakaji was still one step too late. Just when Aburame Torune took the root ninja and thought he had succeeded, another Ryosuke suddenly came out of the ground and slashed his arm. Swish! Aburame Torune took the root ninja and instantly turned into a cloud of insects to escape. And Ryosuke did not pursue, but put away a drop of blood on his blade. I got the first copy. Ryosuke smiled. Chapter 87 Ryosuke's overwhelming chakra. After the worm cloud condensed and formed, Aburame Torune looked down at a small wound on his arm. He subconsciously pursed his lips, and then nanoscale phosphorus destruction insects invisible to the naked eye clung to the wound, forming a layer of insect armor that covered the wound. The wound was not big, basically nothing serious. But what baffled him was that Ryosuke seemed to be quite happy. It was very inexplicable. 8 trigrams, empty palm. Boom! A violent palm wind hit. Ryosuke's body was instantly blasted into pieces. But what was broken all over the sky was just a large piece of sawdust. Hyuga Nakaji turned around in an instant, and a picture of 8 trigrams appeared under his feet. There was a strong surge of chakra between his palms. With the waving of his palms, he blasted towards Ryosuke who appeared behind him. 8 trigrams, 128 palms. Countless palms instantly enveloped Ryosuke's whole body. All possible dodging angles were blocked by the palms, leaving him no room to dodge. Can't escape. Then don't hide. Leaf Hurricane. Leaf Great Whirlwind. Ryosuke simply fought against Hyuga Nakaji's 8 trigrams palms with taijutsu moves. The opponent's palms bombarded him, except for revealing his acupuncture points, it did not cause any other damage. 8 trigrams palms, revolving heaven. After hitting 128 palms, Hyuga Nakaji switched to revolving heaven instantly, rotating to block the attack of Ryosuke. Yagami Ryosuke, you are finished. The chakra in your body has been sealed by me with 8 trigrams palms, can you still mobilize your chakra now? Hyuga Nakaji said proudly. Sealed. Ryosuke smiled disdainfully. Is this also called sealing? Next second a chakra that was dozens of times stronger than before erupted from the body of Ryosuke. Boom! Chakra, which was visible to the naked eye, burst out from every pore of Ryosuke's body, burning like a flame all over his body. Bang! The surrounding ground was crushed and cracked by this chakra coercion. Hyuga Nakaji, who bore the brunt of the force, was thrown directly for more than 10 meters. After turning over and landing, he looked at Ryosuke in front of him with a horrified expression on his face. This chakra. No. How is this possible? In Hyuga Nakaji's sight, the chakra in Ryosuke's body directly increased by about 100 times. Before the chakra in the body of Ryosuke was only at the level of an elite jonin, but now the chakra in Ryosuke's body is 20 to 30 times more than the chakra in the body of a Kage-level powerhouse. Such a huge chakra. This is the first time Hyuga Nakaji has seen it except for Tailed Beast and Jinchuriki. He has never seen this much chakra in a normal ninja, even in the Kage of a village. Actually, Ryosuke's current basic chakra has reached the level of ordinary Kage level. Plus the 35 times bonus of the talent entry. His chakra amount is a lot more than Uzumaki Naruto, the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. Naruto's current chakra is 120 units. But Ryosuke's chakra has reached about 350 units. Such a huge chakra, even if it is just the coercion formed by a simple chakra explosion, is enough to scare people to death. At this time, it wasn't just Hyuga Nakaji who was freaked out. Even the other root ninjas turned pale with fright. This brat, what's going on? Why does he have so much more chakra than the Nine Tails Jinchuriki? These root ninjas felt that this was completely incomprehensible. Why does a normal ninja have more chakra than the Nine Tails Jinchuriki? This is completely unreasonable. Reasonable? For a hacker, nothing is unreasonable. At this time, Ryosuke, who completely unleashed his chakra, also looked at the root ninjas in front of him with cold eyes. Multiple shadow clone technique. Boom! A white smoke spread around, revealing more than a dozen shadow clones of Ryosuke surrounding these people. Next second, wind release, great breakthrough. The root ninjas had question marks on their faces. Great breakthrough. You still want to kill our group of elite ninjas who are at least jonin with a C-rank wind release? However, in the next second, they knew that their thinking was completely wrong. Who said great breakthrough can't kill people? More than a dozen shadow clones cast great breakthrough at the same time, and the violent gale instantly ravaged the area like a typhoon of magnitude 18 passing through. The root ninjas were directly blown away by the strong wind. The defensive ninjutsu they performed was completely useless. Even if Hyuga Nakaji used Revolving Heaven again for the second time, this so-called absolute defense was instantly broken, and he was directly blasted, crushed, and blood spurted all over the sky in embarrassment. Ryosuke also took the opportunity to collect the biological pheromones of each of them. Done. He put away these biological pheromones, and then looked at the forest that had been hit by great breakthrough. A large area has been cleared of trees. The ground is like a field that has been turned over. And those root ninjas were also lying on the ground dying. Only the two elite jonin, Hyuga Nakaji and Aburame Torune, could barely stand. They are just trash, not even half as good as me. Ryosuke thinks that Madara's words are very suitable to describe the current situation. These root ninjas on the opposite side are indeed not even half as good as him. He only made a slight move, and more than half of them were already lying down on the other side. The strength gap is too large. Even though Ryosuke has exposed many of his inexperience in this battle, these still cannot smooth out the huge gap in strength between the two sides. And now, he has already gotten what he wanted, their biopheromones. Ryosuke also intended to end this battle now. Let's give you a splendid funeral, Ryosuke said with a smile. Chapter 88, Bonus Chapter, the power of Burst Rasengan immediately, he stretched out his hand, and an orange-red Burst Rasengan condensed and formed in his palm. This Burst Rasengan looked no bigger than a head. But the destructive power contained in it made the faces of Hyuga Nakaji and the Aburame Torune suddenly change wildly. Run! Without the slightest hesitation, the two directly chose to turn around and run away. Can't beat. Can't beat at all. At this moment, even Aburame Torune, who admired Danzo in his heart, did not intend to continue this task. Why is there a need to continue with a mission that is bound to fail? Come on, feel the gorgeous gift I have given you. Ryosuke flew into mid-air in an instant, and threw the Burst Rasengan in his hand vigorously. At this moment, a brilliant orange tail flashed in the sky. It was like a meteor falling to the ground. First, a dazzling light illuminated the entire forest. Even Yugao, who was 5 or 6 kilometers away from here, could see a little sun rising over there. Next second, the exploding fireball began to swell as if it was devouring everything. It swelled to a size of 1,000 meters in diameter, and then the ball began to deform. Rumble. The violent shock wave then swept across the 4 directions, destroying everything along the way. Trees, rocks, and soil were instantly burned to ashes by the scorching heat, and then swept into the sky by shock waves. Far away, Yugao opened her mouth wide, looking at a huge mushroom rising over there in disbelief. She even forgot to keep running away. After 10 seconds, boom. A shock wave swept across the area where Yugao was. The big tree was uprooted. Yugao tumbled directly in the air, and after a dozen laps, she was caught by a pair of powerful arms, and then landed firmly on the emptied forest floor. Sister Yugao, are you okay? Ryosuke put down Yugao and asked. Yugao shook her head in a daze. Then she looked over there, and then at Ryosuke in front of her. That's what you did? She asked hesitantly. Ryosuke nodded with a smile. That's right, this is a ninjutsu I just perfected a while ago. It is a bit more powerful. Slightly powerful? You call that a little bit powerful? She was 5 or 6 kilometers away from it, and in the end she was still thrown into the sky. If this ninjutsu is used in a densely populated city, wouldn't it mean that the entire city would be razed to the ground on the spot? Ryosuke, are you really only 12 years old? Yugao looked at Ryosuke in front of her as if she was looking at some alien. Is this a ninjutsu that normal ninjas can use? Shouldn't ninjas' way of fighting be hand-to-hand combat, fighting with wisdom and tactics, and doing a one-hit kill in an unexpected way? When did ninjas start to engage in such large-scale terrorist attacks? Yugao looked at the mess around her. It's hard to imagine that this kind of destructive power is only caused by a ninjutsu. Are you sure it's not a natural disaster? Can even the tailed beast bomb of the tailed beast reach this level? Yugao felt that even the tailed beast bomb wouldn't have such terrifying destructive power. Ryosuke looked at Yugao's shocked expression and couldn't help laughing. He said, well, the power of this ninjutsu is indeed a bit stronger. Sister Yugao, are you not scared? No, I'm already scared. Yugao said dumbfoundedly. Ryosuke, no wonder you told me to stay away before, now I fully understand. With this scope of destruction, as long as she got closer, she would disappear immediately. Yugao imagined at this moment that those ninjas at the root, including Hyuga Nakaji, might not even be able to keep a piece of fingernail at this moment, right? In fact, it is true. The burst Rasengan that Ryosuke has further perfected can not only be thrown out for long-distance attacks, but is also much more powerful than it was at the beginning. The fireball formed by its explosion is enough to engulf an area with a diameter of 1 kilometer. The internal temperature can reach tens of thousands of degrees Celsius. No matter how powerful a ninja is, as long as they are within this range, they will almost certainly die. Or, they can drive a huge Gundam. But their situation will still definitely be extremely embarrassing, and even getting injured is normal. And for ninjas who don't know how to drive a Gundam, Faced with this level of ninjutsu, they must either escape far ahead of time, or they should know time and space ninjutsu, or just wait for death. At least it can save a little effort that would be used to escape. Anyway, they can't run away. This trick is called burst Rasengan, but Ryosuke thinks it would be okay even if it is called the technique of growing mushrooms. Looking over there, a huge mushroom cloud that hasn't dissipated yet was seen. It's just growing mushrooms in the end. Sister Yugao, about my ninjutsu, it's best not to tell anyone other than you and me, I'm afraid it will scare them. Ryosuke said. Hearing this, Yugao looked at him with complicated eyes, then nodded. Ryosuke, I don't know why you want to hide your strength, but I promise you, I won't tell others what happened today. Hearing what Yugao said seriously, Ryosuke also said, when the time is right, I will tell Sister Yugao everything. I hope that when the time comes, Sister Yugao will not be intimidated. Hearing this, Yugao laughed and said, I have already been frightened by you, but if you want to frighten me again, it will not be so easy. Everything that happened today really shattered Yugao's outlook. First, the ninjas from the village came to ambush Ryosuke, even the captain of their second unit was part of the ambush. This made Yugao realize for the first time that there is more darkness in the village than she has ever seen before. Or, she had never really understood the darkness in the village before. An Anbu team leader would actually do such a thing. Yugao couldn't help wondering whether it was the right decision to join Anbu. This is also one of the reasons why Yugao promised Ryosuke to help him conceal his strength. Because she can understand the current situation of Ryosuke. If it were her, she would also choose to hide her true strength. Don't tell anyone. And Ryosuke chose to tell her all this, which in itself is an expression of trust in her. This made Yugao quite happy. She was able to be trusted by Ryosuke. Chapter 89 Hot Spring, What the hell is going on here? A group of Anbu ninjas stared in shock at the huge pit in front of them. The diameter of the huge crater was almost 1 kilometer, and the bottom was nearly 100 meters away from the surface. And everything in a large area around it was destroyed. These Anbu ninjas were all scattered before, going in other directions. At this time, they were attracted by the huge explosion here and came to check the situation. As a result, after arriving here, what they saw was such a situation. Their worldview was shattered on the spot. Captain, was this caused by a meteorite? An Anbu ninja asked. The captain standing in front shook his head, saying that he didn't know if it was a meteorite. After all, no meteorite was seen in the pit. But this does not rule out the possibility that someone had arrived here before them and taken away the meteorite. Look around and see if there are any clues. The captain commanded. Immediately, several members of Anbu scattered in search of possible clues. Murata Town. This is a small town in the northeast of the Land of Fire, close to the Land of Iron. The town is not big, with a population of about 6,000 or 7,000 people. The most famous thing in this town is the Murata Hot Spring. The name of Murata Town was also derived from this. After Ryosuke and Yugao left, they did not return immediately to join other Anbu ninjas. Instead, they chose to continue going north and came to this Murata Town. They planned to rest here for a night before heading back to the village tomorrow. As for excuses, Yugao had already thought about it on the way. She would say that she was hunted down by Kumo ninjas along with Ryosuke, and then they fled to the vicinity of the Iron Kingdom before getting rid of the pursuers. Then, they rested for a night to make sure that the hidden ninjas nearby did not notice them before returning. If they asked about the situation on the battlefield, she would say that they didn't know either. If it was in the past, Yugao would definitely not lie to the Hokage. But now Yugao didn't know if she should trust him. What happened today really had a big impact on her heart. Ryosuke also saw that Yugao was not in a good mood, so after finding out that the most famous place in this Murata town was Murata Hot Spring, he took Yugao to the largest hotel in the town. Boss, a suite. Ryosuke took out the money and put it on the counter. The owner of the hotel was a woman in her 40s. After the other party took the money, she smiled and called a little girl to take them to the room with the key. Yugao followed along absent-mindedly along the way. It wasn't until Ryosuke said something that Yugao came back to her senses. Sister Yugao, I heard that the hot springs in this town are quite famous, let's go to a hot spring later, so as to relieve fatigue. Ryosuke said. Hearing this, Yugao also nodded. She was indeed a little tired. Soaking in a hot spring would help her relieve her fatigue. Guest, we have the most authentic Murata hot spring in our hotel. You will fall in love with our Murata hot spring in Murata town as long as you soak in it once. The little girl leading the way smiled and said to the two of them. Okay, then we'll go experience your hot spring later. As Ryosuke said, he took out 500 ryo and handed it to the little girl. Guests, we don't have a rule for tipping. The little girl quickly waved her hand and refused. It's okay, you can take it, wait for a while, and take us to your hot spring later. Ryosuke said. He put the money in the little girl's hands. Hearing this, the little girl hesitated for a while, then put the money into her pocket with a smile. Guests, I'll be waiting for you behind the door. The little girl said, then turned and left the room. Ryosuke, did you come to this kind of place often before? Why do I feel that you are very skilled in this set of actions? Yugao looked at Ryosuke with a suspicious expression. No way, Sister Yugao, you're overthinking. I've never been out of the village before, and I don't need to stay in a hotel in the village. Ryosuke said. But, he had actually gone to hot springs in Konoha several times. The main reason is that it is very comfortable to soak in a hot spring after he is tired from training. But all he went to were serious hot springs. He has never been to such a dishonest place. Sister Yugao, there are 2 rooms in this suite, which one do you want to sleep in tonight? Ryosuke changed the subject and asked. I'll take the one on the left. Yugao chose one at random. Anyway, the rooms are almost the same, and there is nothing to care about. A few minutes later, Ryosuke and Yugao followed the little girl to the hot spring area of the hotel. Men's bath, women's bath, mixed bath, what? This hotel has mixed baths. Ryosuke stared at those 2 words for a few more seconds. Then Yugao, who was beside him, seemed to notice what he was looking at, and couldn't help laughing. Is Ryosuke going to try the mixed bath? Yugao deliberately teased him and asked. Sister Yugao, do you want to go together? Ryosuke asked. Forget it, I like to take a bath alone. Yugao shook her head, but Ryosuke, you can try it, maybe you can meet a beautiful young lady. Forget it, I'd better go to the men's bath. Ryosuke thought about it, but gave up the idea of going to the mixed bath to gain insights. The main reason is that he had heard a rumor before that the women who would go to mixed baths were either elderly aunts, or a group of old women. He didn't want to be scared and run out. How embarrassing would that be? So, he decided to go to the men's bath honestly. Oh. That's such a pity. Yugao said with a smile on purpose. Ryosuke could see that Yugao was teasing him on purpose, so he rolled his eyes and walked directly into the door of the men's bath. He chose a hot spring pool without people, and soaked in the hot spring comfortably. He felt like the pores of his body were opened. So comfortable. He casually covered his face with a wet towel, then lay on the edge, resting with his eyes closed. After a while, Ryosuke took off the towel from his face, and wiped his face again. Seeing no one around, he took out a drop of blood from the system's biopheromone warehouse. This drop of blood belonged to Aburame Torune from before. System, transform this drop of blood on my hand. Ryosuke said silently in his heart. Chapter 90. Soaking in the hot spring with Yugao. Next second, the drop of blood on his hand disappeared instantly. Then a system prompt sounded in his mind. Ding! Converted successfully. Congratulations to host for getting the talent entry, Phosphorus Insect Body, Blue. Phosphorus Insect Body, Blue, there are a lot of poisonous phosphorus bugs in your body. These cute little bugs will obey your orders. Maybe you can try to accept the reality that your body is covered with bugs. Insect affinity plus 100%. Comes with phosphorus destruction insect. Hiss. Those who play with bugs are ruthless people. Ryosuke looked at the contents of this talent entry and thought. The ninjas of the Aburame clan can bear a lot of bugs living in their bodies. But Ryosuke was not be able to accept being covered in bugs all over his body. So, there is nothing to say about this talent entry, just dismantle it directly. Originally, Ryosuke came here to break down talent entries and get some experience points. A blue talent entry can get him 100 experience points after decomposition, which is 10 times that of a green talent entry. Unfortunately, even if these experience points are added up and invested in a gold talent entry, it is far from enough to upgrade it. Ryosuke opened the character panel, and glanced at a gold talent entry that had been in the idle slot. In more than 2 years, the experience value of these 3 gold talent entries has already exceeded 10,000 points. But it's still 9/10 short of the 100,000 points needed to upgrade them. At this rate, it will take another 20 years to upgrade them. This is too long. But, since the system had an update, Ryosuke guessed that there should be a second update. The first update added the idle function. So what about the second update? Will it add any new functions? Or will it increase the efficiency of the original functions? For example, increase the idle income from 10 points a day to 100 points a day. Then it would be easy to upgrade a gold talent entry. I wonder what the conditions for the next system update will be. Ryosuke guessed that it might have something to do with the number of equipped talent entries. The previous update was because of this. But Ryosuke had equipped a lot of white and green talent entries before. It turned out to be of no use. The system did not prompt an update. It's possible that this also has something to do with the level of the equipped talent entry. Perhaps those below purple are not counted by the system. If that's the case, Ryosuke will have to equip a few more purple talent entries in the future. It doesn't matter whether it's useful or not, as long as it doesn't disgust him and has no side effects, he can equip them first. After soaking in the hot spring for a while, it became completely dark outside. Ryosuke and Yugao found a restaurant in the small town for dinner. And then went back to the hotel to rest. Late at night. In the room. Ryosuke was having trouble sleeping. He remembered that the little girl who led the way had said that the suite was also equipped with a small hot spring pool. Except that it is a little smaller, it is no different from the hot spring he soaked in before. So Ryosuke, who couldn't sleep, simply got up, took a bathrobe, and went directly to the hot spring. He opened the bathroom door and saw that there was indeed a small hot spring there. This hot spring is a small circular hot spring with a diameter of more than 2 meters. Ryosuke took off his clothes and stepped into the water, allowing the hot spring to cover his whole body. I wonder if Sister Yugao is asleep. Ryosuke thought suddenly. The last time he stayed at Yugao's house, she suffered from insomnia that night. He wondered if she would suffer from insomnia again if she stayed in this hotel tonight. But this night, it is impossible for Ryosuke to knock on Yugao's door and ask her if she is asleep. In case she is already asleep, it's okay, but if he wakes her up instead. The result. It's scary to think about. With his face covered in a towel, Ryosuke rested in the hot spring with his eyes closed. After an unknown amount of time. Just when he was a little drowsy and about to fall asleep, he suddenly heard the sliding door open. Ryosuke was startled, and hurriedly took the towel off his face and moved towards the door. At the door, Yugao, who was wearing a pink bathrobe, was standing there with a small frame. She looked at Ryosuke, who was soaking in the water, in surprise. Ryosuke, are you still awake? Sister Yugao, are you suffering from insomnia again? The two asked each other almost at the same time. Then, they fell into a moment of silence. Well, why don't you take the hot spring first? Ryosuke asked. Hearing this, Yugao, who was standing at the door, hesitated for a moment, then turned and closed the sliding door of the bathroom. It's okay, let's soak in the hot spring together. Yugao turned around with a slightly red face and said. She wondered if her figure was smoked by the heat of the hot spring. Probably, right? Turn your head away. Yugao said to Ryosuke. Ah. Oh. Ryosuke froze for a moment, then turned his head to the side in embarrassment. After a while, there was a sound of water rippling. Okay. Ryosuke, who heard the voice, turned his head back and saw that Yugao had walked into the hot spring pool. Sister Yugao, are you unable to sleep again? Ryosuke felt that if he didn't speak at this moment, the atmosphere would be very awkward, so he took the initiative to find a topic to talk about. Yeah, maybe because too many things happened during the day, I can't sleep. Yugao nodded and said. When she was in the room before, when she closed her eyes, she would remember what happened during the day, so she couldn't sleep at all. She was feeling distraught. She suddenly remembered that the little girl leading the way had said that there was also a small hot spring in the room, so she thought that if she came over to take a dip in the hot spring to relax, maybe she would be able to sleep well. It turned out that Ryosuke had the same idea. It's no coincidence. Chapter 91, Bonus Chapter, Meeting the Akatsuki. Soaking in hot springs is good, but staying for too long can be bad. If a person stays in a hot spring for too long, their skin will wrinkle and they will feel dizzy. When walking, they will feel like the world is spinning. Fortunately, Ryosuke and Yugao are both ninjas with better physique than ordinary people. It's okay for them to soak for a while. The two soaked until 2 o'clock in the middle of the night, when Yugao said that she was a little sleepy and went to bed first. And Ryosuke also soaked for a while, and went to his room to rest. The next day, Yugao didn't wake up until 8:30 in the morning. As soon as she came out of the room, she saw that Ryosuke was already drinking tea in the yard. You woke up so early. Yugao said, aren't you sleepy today? Ryosuke shook his head with a smile, and said, when I was at home, I didn't sleep much. At first, I used to feel sleepy, but now I don't. After a little sleep of 3 or 4 hours, I feel refreshed. If only I could be like you. I used to be busy until midnight when I had tasks. I could rest for a while, and then I had to get up early the next day. I felt like I didn't get enough sleep every time. As Yugao said, she turned and went to the bathroom to wash up. After she finished washing and came out, Ryosuke had asked the hotel to bring her breakfast. Let's eat. We will go back after eating. Ryosuke said. Yugao nodded, pulled out the chair and sat down. After 9 a.m. Ryosuke went to the front desk to check out the room. Is the hot spring in our hotel good? The proprietress took the key with a smile and asked. Hearing this, Ryosuke and Yugao couldn't help but think about what happened last night. Great. I have nothing to complain about it. Ryosuke was quite natural, and he also praised the hotel's hot spring, by the way. But Yugao, who was standing behind him, blushed a little and lowered her head subconsciously. When the two came out of the hotel, Ryosuke saw Yugao looking at the ground all the time, only to realize that she was blushing a little. Sister Yugao, you are blushing. Ryosuke said. Yugao. Out of anger, Yugao stomped the back of Ryosuke's foot. And Ryosuke also pretended to be in pain. Does it really hurt? Yugao thought that she had used too much strength, and really stepped hard on Ryosuke. But soon, she remembered that the brat in front of her was a guy whose flesh/body could directly resist B-rank ninjutsu without a scratch. How could Ryosuke be hurt just by her stepping on the back of his foot? Knowing that she was fooled again, Yugao glared at Ryosuke angrily. Okay, Sister Yugao, I'm joking with you. Ryosuke scratched his head with a smile and said. Don't make such a joke next time. Yugao said angrily. Ryosuke said that he would not do it next time, and then looked at the angry Yugao, and suddenly said, Sister Yugao, you look cute when you are angry. Yugao. You still dare to joke? She raised her hand to hit him, but Ryosuke hurried to the front. Don't run. Let me hit you a few times. Yugao chased after him, and the two quickly ran out of the town. Outside the town is a dense forest. There are still wisps of morning fog floating in the forest. The two who chased and ran out of the town stopped suddenly, and heard the sound of wind chimes in their ears. Yugao looked towards the distance of the road. In the morning mist, two tall figures were slowly walking towards this side. Because of the influence of the fog, Yugao could not clearly see the appearance of the person. But the faint murderous aura in the air made Yugao show a solemn expression. It's them. Ryosuke then activated his Byakugan and Sharingan. Although his eyes still had their normal appearance, he could already clearly see the appearance of the person coming from a distance through the wisps of morning fog. They wore a windbreaker with red clouds on a black background. That person also wore a bamboo hat, with wind chimes hanging on both sides of the hat. The crisp wind chimes came from there. Huh. I didn't expect to meet Konoha's ninjas here. After getting close, the two members of the Akatsuki organization also discovered Ryosuke and Yugao standing in front. They glanced at the Konoha forehead protectors on the two of them, and then the white-haired and green-eyed Kakuzu took out a booklet from his sleeve. He opened the booklet and looked at it page by page. Finally, his eyes stopped on one of the pages. Uzuki Yugao, Konoha Special Jonin, offering a reward of 8 million ryo. Kakuzu read out the contents of the pamphlet. No way, Kakuzu. Hidan on the side muttered dissatisfiedly, you even want to get this low reward of 8 million? Don't waste time. Isn't 8 million still money? Kakuzu gave Hidan a cold look. Let alone 8 million, even if it is 800,000, he will not let it go. Anyway, it's a matter of convenience. Why not do it? This 8 million is so easy to earn, is it possible that he would feel disgusted to do this work? Kakuzu is not the kind of person who would dislike low money. No matter how much money there is, as long as there is money to be made, he is willing to do it. Fine. Go ahead, but I won't help you. Hidan folded his hands and said impatiently. You don't need to do anything, I can handle it myself, just give me 2 minutes. Kakuzu glanced at him lightly, it was just a special jonin of Konoha, not even a formal jonin, it could be done easily in a few minutes. TCH. What a hassle. Hidan curled his lips. Sister Yugao, do you have a bounty? Ryosuke looked at Yugao with some surprise. Generally speaking, those who can have a bounty on the black market are not ordinary ninjas. People wouldn't spend money to put a bounty on a normal ninja's heads. Even Ryosuke didn't expect that there would be a reward on the black market for her. Although 8 million ryo is not much, that is the reward for 2 or 3 S-rank missions. Chapter 92 Ryosuke vs Kakuzu, I don't know either. Yugao shook her head, she had never heard that she was offered a reward on the black market. But 8 million ryo? Her head is only worth 8 million ryo? Yugao was a little angry and felt that she was underestimated. As for worrying about the two ninjas on the opposite side, since she had seen the strength of Ryosuke yesterday, Yugao didn't feel worried or nervous at all at the moment. She even felt a little pity for the two people on the opposite side. They actually met the two of them and planned to attack them. Isn't this suicidal? Boy, you are not on my roster, if you don't want to die, go away. Don't get in the way of me making money. Kakuzu said to Ryosuke. Kakuzu has always looked down on this kind of ninja who doesn't have a bounty. A piece of junk that doesn't even have a bounty is unworthy to die at the hands of him, Kakuzu. Kakuzu, hurry up. Hidan urged. Shut up. Talk again, and I will kill you together. Kakuzu turned his head and said viciously. These guys from the Akatsuki organization are all ruthless people. They are so ruthless that they even dare to kill their own companions. But that's nothing. After all, there are werewolves who even dare to slash the tailed beast bomb. What's the point of killing a few companions? Ryosuke, why don't you let me try? Yugao put one hand on her sword, wanting to see if this guy in front of her was as powerful as he said he was. Or was it just pure lip service? No, Sister Yugao, these two guys are not simple, let me do it. Ryosuke stopped Yugao. Yugao didn't know the two people in front of her, but how could Ryosuke not know them? Akatsuki's Undead Duo. One Hidan, one Kakuzu. The former has an immortal body, and his taijutsu is not bad, and is at the level of a jonin, but the key is that his immortal body is very troublesome, and he can use a spell to kill others with blood. If you don't know his information, and accidentally let him get your own blood, you will be at his mercy. And the other Kakuzu far surpasses Hidan in terms of raw power. Hidan mainly relies on immortality and weird spells. But as long as you figure out his information, it is not difficult to deal with him. But Kakuzu is different. This guy is an old monster who has lived for more than 90 years. Although he looks young, he is actually a grandpa. It is said that this guy was once ordered to assassinate the first Hokage Senju Hashirama, but because of fear, he just threw a shuriken from a distance and ran away. Therefore, he is nicknamed Kakuzu, who threw a shuriken 800 miles away. But don't look at Kakuzu facing Senju Hashirama and being so scared that he didn't even dare to make a move and ran away. But in fact, he is also a genuine Kage level powerhouse. Even in the Kage level, his body is also a high-end level. It's very hard to deal with. In particular, he has 5 hearts, and only by completely destroying these 5 hearts can he be killed. Otherwise, it is impossible to kill him in other ways. People who don't know this information will never find his 5 hearts wearing a mask, and think that it's just some kind of special secret technique. Ryosuke also didn't expect that he would meet the undead duo here. And, Kakuzu even had his eye on Yugao. The reason turned out to be because of the reward of 8 million ryo. Ryosuke, do you know them? Yugao heard Ryosuke's words and asked him in surprise. Ryosuke nodded, and said, Sister Yugao, you back up and protect yourself. Leave these two guys to me. I ate too much in the morning. It's just right to fight now to digest food. Then be careful yourself, I'll watch you. Yugao said. She then retreated to the vicinity of the gate of the town. At this time, on the opposite side, Kakuzu looked up and down at Ryosuke. It seems that your strength is stronger than this female ninja, but you should really think about leaving. I really don't want to kill a ninja like you who doesn't even have a bounty. Kakuzu tried to persuade Ryosuke to leave. For him, killing a ninja whose head doesn't offer a reward is tantamount to wasting time in which he could have made money. And wasting time is one of the most shameful things for Kakuzu, second only to spending money. Needless to say, if you don't defeat me today, you won't be able to get close to Sister Yugao. Ryosuke said. Then he slowly pulled out his sword. His ninjutsu is too powerful. Even if it is a C-rank ninjutsu, in his hands, it can display the power close to that of an S-rank ninjutsu. And, Ryosuke also had his focus on the biological pheromones of the undead duo. If it was them, it should be able to transform into 2 talent entries that are at least purple, right? Undead duo, don't let me down. Ryosuke murmured to himself. Next second, his figure disappeared in a flash. On the opposite side, Kakuzu showed a contemptuous smile. His hands under the sleeves quickly weaved some seals, and in an instant, 2 hideous masked monsters emerged from his body, wind release, crush. Boom! A gust of wind blasted the incoming Ryosuke. However, Ryosuke rushed up directly with wind release, completely ignoring his attack. Oh! You have some skills. Kakuzu looked at Ryosuke, who rushed up with wind release in surprise, a little surprised at the opponent's strength. After all, Ryosuke looks too immature. They can tell at a glance that he is still young. So at the beginning, neither Kakuzu nor Hidan took Ryosuke seriously. But the truth is that this kid's strength is quite good. That's right. In Kakuzu's heart, the strength shown by Ryosuke at this moment is just good. He couldn't remember how many ninjas like Ryosuke he had killed in his life. Their pile of human heads can form a hill. Kakuzu was just a little surprised, but didn't take it too seriously. Dance of the Crescent Moon. Ryosuke performed this move, which was the swordsmanship he had learned from Yugao. As soon as the Dance of the Crescent Moon was performed, 3 Ryosukes appeared in midair, and surrounded Kakuzu with 2 in front and 1 behind. Under the bonus of 400% of the power of swordsmanship, Ryosuke's sword was fast and accurate. Before Kakuzu had time to dodge, Ryosuke killed this wind attribute masked monster in an instant. Chapter 93 Ryosuke's water release. At the same time, Ryosuke also chopped off one of Kakuzu's arms. The arm flew out with blood. In an instant, 3 other masked monsters emerged from Kakuzu's body, releasing several ninjutsu to temporarily force Ryosuke back. Immediately, Kakuzu looked at the blown wind attribute mask monster with a dark face, and looked at Ryosuke. He no longer had the previous look of contempt. Instead, he carried a strong killing intent. This brat. He dared to destroy his heart. Unforgivable. Hey! Kakuzu, can you do it? Hidan, who was standing on a tree, saw that Kakuzu's heart was blown, and couldn't help but shout suspiciously. Shut up! Kakuzu turned to look at him angrily. He was really angry this time. One of his 5 hearts was easily blown out by this brat in front of him. And this kid was still an unknown little person. He hadn't heard of the other party at all. If it were those famous ninjas in the ninja world, then Kakuzu would not be so angry. After all, even if he loses 1 or 2 hearts, he won't die. As long as he wins in the end, who can say anything about him? But now, Kakuzu really couldn't accept being hurt by such a small character. He felt that his dignity was insulted. Especially, that idiot Hidan even laughed at him. This made Kakuzu feel even more unbearable. Damn kid, you managed to piss me off. Kakuzu looked at Ryosuke opposite with murderous eyes, and at this moment he even ignored Yugao, who was worth 8 million ryo over there. He just wanted to kill this brat so that he could maintain his composure. Uncle, you don't look very good. It turns out that you are just a good talker. Ryosuke laughed and mocked. This made Kakuzu even more furious. Sharp-toothed brat, go to hell. Kakuzu, who was dominated by anger, directly controlled his 3 masked monsters to kill Ryosuke. He was careless before and he had underestimated the strength of this brat. But this time, he won't be so careless again. As long as he fights seriously, can't he kill a person with Jonin-level strength as easy as cutting melons and vegetables? From the mouth of a masked monster, a large piece of flame was ejected. The moment the flames hit the ground, they spread across a large area, covering all of Ryosuke's escape routes. Lightning release, false darkness. Another masked monster also opened its mouth and sprayed out a thunderbolt, shooting directly at Ryosuke in the center of the sea of flames. The last masked monster didn't make a move. Because the attribute of this masked monster is water. Right now, the surrounding area has been covered by a sea of flames, so if it used water release ninjutsu at this time, it would be creating obstacles for itself. Ninjutsu? TCH. Would I be afraid of you? Ryosuke sneered, completely ignoring the raging sea of flames. His hands formed seals instantly, and then he spit out a huge amount of water from his mouth. The water rushed towards the sea of flames in front of him like a cataract. Water release, water chaos. This C-rank water release ninjutsu released by Ryosuke was as powerful as an S-rank ninjutsu. In the current waterless environment, it can create a massive flow of water, which is even bigger than a big waterfall. Kakuzu on the opposite side was stunned. Boom! The monstrous torrent smashed everything in its path. Kakuzu was so frightened that he jumped up into the air, avoiding the massive water flow. Below, the whole forest was almost submerged by the flood. The big trees were washed down by the current, and floated on the water, and they were washed away with the rushing water. Hidan, who was standing on a tree to watch the fun before, quickly imitated Kakuzu and jumped up to dodge, then turned over and landed on a piece of wood floating on the water. Wow! This water release is so scary, Hidan said in fear. There is also a water release master within their organization. But even Hashige Kisame couldn't make a mere C-rank water release burst out with such terrifying power. He thought it was a big explosion. Swish! Kakuzu fell from the sky, and his feet landed on the turbulent water, and his excellent chakra control kept him from falling into the water. What kind of monster is this kid? At this moment, Kakuzu couldn't help but doubt his life. He swore that even the second Hokage Senju Tobirama, who was more like the Mizukage than the actual Mizukage, couldn't use a C-rank water release on this scale. Not to mention the consumption of chakra. The key is that no one has been able to support a C-rank ninjutsu with such a large chakra output since its creation. Otherwise, everyone would have learned C-rank ninjutsu. It's easy to learn, unlike those A-rank or even S-rank ninjutsu, which require extraordinary talent to learn at every turn. You stayed out of the way, awesome. Ryosuke clapped his hands in praise. Kakuzu. Hidan. No. Why is this kid talking so annoyingly? Is he mocking us? He's laughing at us, right? Swish. Kakuzu, let me help if you can't handle him. Hidan picked up his scythe angrily, and waved it in the air, looking angry. Go away. He's mine. Kakuzu let out a roar. Stepping on the water quickly with both feet, he rushed to Ryosuke in front of him. In terms of ninjutsu, he found that he seemed to be no match for this brat. The opponent's chakra is amazing. The power of his ninjutsu is also amazing. If he continued to fight at a wider distance, the loser would most likely be himself. So Kakuzu immediately changed his fighting strategy. Earth Release, Earth Spear. Kakuzu still had an Earth-type heart in his body. At this time, he used an Earth Release ninjutsu to strengthen his defense and attack, and his two arms instantly became pitch black, as if there was some hard substance covering them. The other side, Ryosuke just copied Kakuzu's fire release with Sharingan. Seeing Kakuzu rushing up at this time, and cast another Earth Release ninjutsu that he hadn't learned before, he quickly copied it again. Chapter 94. The Undead Duo escape. Although Ryosuke's chakra attribute is fire, water and wind. And he does not have Earth attribute. But that doesn't mean he can't learn Earth attribute ninjutsu. It's just that, whether it is learning or using, he will have to do twice the work to get half the result. But ninjas can develop additional chakra attributes in the later stage. Even a ninja who originally only had a single attribute can acquire multiple chakra attributes. However, Ryosuke has not yet practiced the shape transformation and nature transformation of the Earth attribute, so the copied Earth release can only exert almost 1/3 of the main effect in his hands. But he still had 10 times the ninjutsu power attribute from Hus talent entry. Earth Release, Earth Spear. Ryosuke instantly cast the copied Earth Release ninjutsu, and also hardened his arms. A pitch-black Earth attribute substance covered his two arms. Ryosuke laughed and punched Kakuzu. Boom! The fists of the two collided instantly in midair, and Kakuzu, who was on the opposite side, watched in disbelief as he was blown apart and his right hand turned into countless fragments. He watched Ryosuke's hand pierce through his chest and Ryosuke exploded the Earth attribute heart in his body. Fuck! Kakuzu fell to the ground with a thud, pretending to be dead. But he couldn't understand one thing in his heart. Why was he easily blown away by Ryosuke despite them both using the same ninjutsu? Did he use a fake Earth release? Kakuzu. Seeing Kakuzu rushing to the street, Hidan behind was also taken aback. He even forgot that Kakuzu had 5 hearts, and rushed forward with his scythe. Little kid, die. Hidan jumped high and slashed at Ryosuke. And Ryosuke just raised his head to look at him, then he raised his hand and grabbed the sickle that Hidan had chopped down. Clang! The sickle struck the arm of Ryosuke. It didn't break his defense. Hidan stared at the scene with wide eyes and he was instantly embarrassed. He couldn't even break his defense. If he can't break his defense, he won't get the blood of Ryosuke and he can't cast the spell without blood. If it weren't for his immortality and spells, Hidan's combat power would only be equivalent to that of Jonin. That's it. Ryosuke also wanted to try to see if Hidan's attack could break his own defense. Although he was confident that Hidan couldn't do it, he still didn't remove the spear ninjutsu on his arm out of the principle of being cautious. At this time, Hidan's scythe failed to break through Ryosuke's defense. Even the layer of black substance on his arm couldn't be broken. The attack was completely useless. Let go. Ryosuke grabbed Hidan's scythe with his backhand and pulled him over. Boom! The air burst instantly. Ryosuke shattered Hidan's chest with one punch, sending his body flying heavily. Blood spilled all over the sky. Ryosuke caught one of the drops and put it away. This time, the biological pheromones of the undead duo were all in his hand. It just so happens that today's conversions haven't been used yet. After killing these two guys, he can try to convert the talent entry of one of them to see how it works. Ryosuke. Behind him, Yugao suddenly yelled the name of Ryosuke. He looked back. He found that Kakuzu, who was still pretending to be dead just now, had disappeared. There was only a big pool of blood left on the ground. Ryosuke frowned. He realized that Kakuzu should have been rescued by the Akatsuki. Oh, and Hidan. Ryosuke reacted instantly, and immediately rushed towards Hidan. He was faster than most Kage-level powerhouses. In just a split second, he rushed to Hidan who had a huge hole in his chest. At this time, a pair of black and white hands emerged from the ground. The ground rippled like water. Seeing that Hidan was about to be taken away, Ryosuke kicked him out instantly. Boom! A deep pit appeared in the ground. Ryosuke fell to the side, frowning. He was not sure if Hidan had died with his last kick. But he did see most of Hidan's body being blasted into blood. But it is also possible that part of his body was taken away by Zetsu, but if there is only a small part of the body left, can Hidan's immortal body still keep him alive? Or, is there any point in living like this? Standing in place, Ryosuke sensed the surrounding environment. He even looked with the Byakugan but he still did not find any traces of any third chakra besides himself and Yugao. They ran really fast. Ryosuke shook his head, then turned back to Yugao. Ryosuke, a weird guy just took that person's body. Seeing Ryosuke approaching, Yugao hurriedly told him what she had just seen. That guy is not dead yet, he was rescued by his companion. Ryosuke said. Ah. He's not dead yet? Yugao was shocked. His whole chest was smashed, and his heart was gone. Still alive? What kind of monsters are these people? Forget it, just let them run away, it doesn't matter anyway. Ryosuke shook his head, then looked at the mess around him, and called Yugao to leave here together. It was a long time after they all left that the people in Murata town just plucked up the courage to walk out of the town. Looking at the forest in front of them that seemed to have been ravaged by a flood, they remained silent for a long time. In a cave. Kakuzu, who had lost 2 hearts, and Hidan's last remaining head emerged from the ground. It's almost safe here now. Zetsu looked at Kakuzu, then handed him the head of Hidan in his hands. This time you were lucky, I happened to be nearby, otherwise you too would be finished. Zetsu was not polite at all, but Kakuzu was remembering the battle just now with a dark face, and he didn't listen to what he said at all. On the contrary, although Hidan only had 1 head left, he still yelled, saying that he wanted to seek revenge on the other party and retrieve his own weapon. Stop looking for that Konoha ninja, you can't beat him. Zetsu glanced at the bluffing Hidan, then his body slowly merged into the ground and disappeared without a trace. Chapter 95. Returning to the village after Zetsu left, Hidan still clamored about taking revenge. Kakuzu, who was in a bad mood, felt even worse when Hidan yelled at him over and over again. "Shut up. If you dare to say another word, I will leave you here right now." His threat seemed to have worked. After all, Hidan only had one head left at this moment. If Kakuzu left him, wouldn't he be left in this cave for the rest of his life? The main point is that Hidan is theoretically immortal. In other words, there is a high probability that he will not die of old age. Therefore, even after hundreds or even thousands of years, he might still be stuck in this cave. Seeing Hidan finally quiet down, Kakuzu angrily led him out of the cave. Next, he had to make up for the 2 hearts that he had lost. As for Hidan's body, he would think about it later. Anyway, Hidan still had one head left and his eating and sleeping didn't really matter. After he eats something, wouldn't it just fall out? Wouldn't that be better? Without a stomach, will he never be full? At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Ryosuke and Yugao rested in the woods and had a simple lunch. After lunch, Yugao took out a map to confirm their current location. According to their current speed, they would be able to return to the village before dark. She wondered if the other Anbu ninjas of the second team had already returned to the village by this time. Or are they still doing the mission? Anyway, the 2 of them didn't meet other Anbu members on the way back. So there was a high probability that they had already returned. After all, this so-called intelligence recovery mission was probably initiated by Danzo himself. It might be possible that no important information was lost at all. During the break, Ryosuke took out 2 drops of blood that he had collected from the Undead Duo. After thinking about it, he again stored the drop of Kakuzu's blood. Although Kakuzu is stronger than Hidan, according to Ryosuke's past experience, only the biopheromones of special ninjas like Hidan can transform into better talent entries. As for Kakuzu, it is very likely that some spoof talent entries will be transformed. Like, the man who defeated Senju Hashirama. Or maybe talent entries like the man who threw a shuriken from 800 miles away. In contrast, Ryosuke thought that if it was Hidan, it was more likely that it would transform into corresponding talent entries according to his characteristic of immortality. After all, when it comes to immortality in the world of Naruto, the first person that comes to mind is Hidan. Kakuzu is not at the level of Hidan in terms of vitality. After all, Kakuzu can be killed by bursting his 5 hearts. But what about Hidan? You cut him into pieces, but he still won't die. That's not an exaggeration. Ryosuke felt that Hidan's immortality was the most buggy ability in the entire Naruto world. Even if he was attacked by Shikamaru and the others in the later stage, he was only blown to pieces. If someone helped stitch him up, he would be able to continue to live. It's outrageous. If Ryosuke can get something like Hidan's immortal body, that would greatly increase his life-saving ability coupled with his super recovery ability, wouldn't he reach an unimaginable level? Even though Hidan is immortal, he still needs Kakuzu to help him stitch his wounds. But Ryosuke can handle everything by himself. He may even become a real, unkillable monster. System, transform this drop of blood on my hand. Ryosuke communicated with the system in his mind. Immediately, the drop of blood on his hand disappeared in an instant. At the same time, a prompt also sounded in his mind. Ding! Converted successfully. Congratulations to host for getting the talent entry, Immortal Body, Purple. Hearing this prompt, Ryosuke's eyes brightened. Immortal. Sure enough, as he had guessed, the talent entry transformed from Hidan was related to immortality. Immortal Body, Purple. You are an undead monster that both gods and devils hate. Countless people have tried to take your life, but their attempts all ended in failure. Recovery power plus 500%. Comes with immortality, Purple. It even increases recovery ability. Ryosuke looked at the attributes of the talent entry, Immortal Body, in surprise. Apart from the expected ability of immortality, he didn't expect that the only attribute to be increased would be the recovery ability. Wouldn't the recovery ability of Ryosuke become even more terrifying now? The original primary sage body plus 20 times the recovery bonus had already made Ryosuke's physical recovery ability comparable to Naruto, the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. And now, with another 500% recovery bonus, isn't Ryosuke really an immortal monster? As for the attached ability of immortality. After equipping this talent entry, Ryosuke checked it out. He found that the effect of this ability increases with the level of the talent entry, Immortal Body. Now this talent entry is purple level. So the immortality obtained by Ryosuke is also purple level. His body now has no vital parts. Even if his heart is blown, he can still live. And with his amazing recovery ability, he can grow a heart again. But he still has a weakness, his brain. As long as the damage to the brain exceeds 50%, his immortal body cannot ensure that he will not die. Therefore, from now on, the only thing Ryosuke needs to protect is his own brain. As long as the brain is okay, everything else doesn't matter. But, as a man, the injury in some places may cause some psychological trauma, so it is still better to avoid some attacks if possible. But, if the talent entry, Immortal Body, is upgraded to the gold level, correspondingly, Ryosuke's level of immortality will also improve. At that time, the brain will no longer be his weakness. In other words, even if his brain becomes 99% damaged, he would be able to recover it. But if it is completely blown into powder, he will still probably die. Of course, this was all Ryosuke's own guess at this moment. Whether this will be the case after the upgrade or not, he will have to wait and see. But he thought that his guess was most likely correct. Before dark, Ryosuke and Yugao finally returned to the village. Before entering the village, the two put on their Anbu mask. Then, they walked straight into the village openly, and went straight to the Hokage building. After all, there was an accident in the middle of the mission. When coming back this time, they had to report the situation to Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was the Hokage, as soon as possible. By the way, they also wanted to ask if the others were back. And Black Fang and the others? They wondered if they were killed by those guys from the route. Chapter 96, Bonus Chapter, Danzo. In Hokage's office. Ryosuke and Yugao knocked on the door, and walked in. In the office, Sarutobi Hiruzen raised his head and glanced at the two people who came in, not seeming surprised at all. In fact, as soon as Ryosuke and Yugao had returned to the village, Sarutobi Hiruzen had already received the news. So he was naturally not surprised that the two had returned to the village at this time. I heard that you were ambushed by Kumo ninjas during the mission. What is the specific situation? Sarutobi Hiruzen had an unprecedentedly serious expression on his face. After all, this incident involved the entire Anbu team, and it was also related to Kumogakure. If this mat-tet is not handled well, another diplomatic conflict may arise. It may even cause a series of chain reactions and cause heavy damage to the village. Therefore, Sarutobi Hiruzen, who had already heard the news before the return of Ryosuke and Yugao, had been worrying about this problem. Although the Third Ninja War ended some years ago, the village still has not recovered from the last war. After all, in the middle, Konoha also experienced the attack of Nine Tails on the village, and the Uchiha genocide incident. A serious blow was dealt to the power of the village. If a conflict with Kumogakure really breaks out, Sarutobi Hiruzen will have to do what he did back then with the Hyuga and hand over the personnel related to this matter to Kumogakure. He just hoped that Kumogakure would not pursue this matter. As for this matter being initiated by Kumogakure, is this important? In Sarutobi Hiruzen's view, it doesn't matter who started it. He just doesn't want to start a war with Kumogakure. That's the point. We've been ambushed. As the acting captain of Anbu's 7th Squad, Yugao said before Ryosuke, we were tracking the target under the leadership of the squad leader, but suddenly a group of ninjas wearing Kumogakure forehead protectors popped out halfway. We are not sure if the opponents were real Kumo ninjas, but they were very strong. The team leader held back the 3 ninjas on the opposite side. Yaya and I dealt with the other 2 ninjas together, while Black Fang went to seek support under my order. Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded, smoked his pipe and said, Black Fang and the others from your team returned to the village in the morning, and the information they brought back is not different from what you said. However, what happened after that? How did you escape afterwards? Also, your squad leader has still not returned to the village, what about the others? Sarutobi Hiruzen stared at the 2 people in front of him with a majestic expression on his aged face. Lord Third Hokage. Ryosuke answered immediately. The squad leader bought precious time for me and the captain. We retreated according to his order, but we were chased by the ninjas on the opposite side. Captain and I fled all the way to the north. And we ran a long way before we finally got rid of the pursuers behind us. Afterwards, we wanted to take a rest for a while and then join the other Anbus. However, there was a terrible explosion in that forest. At that time, I discussed it with the team leader. I felt that if we went there, we might be in danger. We thought that we should at least send this information back to the village alive first. Therefore, we finally decided to take a detour from the other side and return to the village to send back this information. Ryosuke's tone was calm, and it was impossible to distinguish that he was lying. After speaking, he also handed over a scroll. The above is the specific process of the task, which is actually what he just said. Sarutobi Hiruzen tapped his pipe, looking lost in thought. After a while, he said, Yeah, Purple, you have done a good job. It is indeed the most important thing to bring the information back to the village. I think you must be tired now. Go back and rest. If anything happens, I will order someone to summon you again. Lord Hokage, we will take our leave first. Yugao secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She was really nervous just now, for fear that the lie she had conspired with Ryosuke would be exposed. Fortunately, it seemed that Lord Hokage didn't suspect them. In Hokage's office. After Ryosuke and Yugao left, another figure appeared in the office. Inoichi, what do you think? Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Yamanaka Inoichi in front of him. They didn't lie. Yamanaka Inoichi shook his head. It seems that they really don't know anything. Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed, and then said, Okay, it's getting late. Inoichi, you can go back and rest. Yamanaka Inoichi nodded, and said his goodbyes. Then, he left the Hokage's office with body flicker technique. After a while, Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed faintly. Looking at the moon in the sky outside the window, he held a piece of information that was sent just today in his hand. The things recorded in this information were remarkable. It was the news that Hyuga Nakaji, the captain of the Anbu's second unit, had joined Danzo's route. Just as Danzo had installed his own people in Anbu, Sarutobi Hiruzen had also planted his own people at the route too. The information in his hand was sent by his undercover agent. Danzo, did you do what happened this time? Sarutobi Hiruzen frowned, lost in thought. He couldn't be sure for a while. After all, the dead people seemed to belong to Danzo's route. Instead, Ryosuke and the others were fine. If Danzo had really done this, Sarutobi Hiruzen wanted to ask him if he didn't have any brains. Chapter 97 Akatsuki's interest. Danzo's men didn't kill anyone, but instead committed suicide? Moreover, if all this was really Danzo's doing, then those so-called Kumo ninjas were most likely root ninjas. What was he planning? But what exactly caused the explosion? Ninjutsu? But what kind of ninjutsu can cause that kind of damage? The more Sarutobi Hiruzen thought about it, the more he couldn't figure it out. But one thing was certain. That is, Ryosuke and Yugao really didn't know anything. After all, it had just been confirmed by Yamanaka Inoichi himself by using genjutsu. Neither of them lied. It's troublesome, the mysterious ninja outside the village has still not been found, and now this incident has happened. J. Sarutobi Hiruzen let out a long sigh. If things continue like this, he may not be able to last even 10 years. Land of Rain Mangekyo, it rains here all year round, and every household always brings an umbrella when going out. At this time in the deepest part of Mangekyo, inside the headquarters base of the Akatsuki organization, Pain, the leader of Akatsuki, heard about the situation of the undead duo. Yagami Ryosuke. Konoha Genin. When Pain heard that Kakuzu and Hidan almost died in the hands of a Konoha Genin, even though his body was just one of the 6 Paths puppets, he couldn't help showing a look of surprise. This kid is not simple, he is very strong in taijutsu and ninjutsu, but he doesn't seem to have much combat experience. He just uses force to overwhelm people. Zetsu said. Even with little combat experience, he almost killed Kakuzu and Hidan. That's even more incredible, isn't it? Pain frowned, and a pair of purple round eyes flashed with thought. After a while, why did the other party have a conflict with Kakuzu and the others? Pain asked. This was very important. If the other party was deliberately targeting their Akatsuki organization, Pain felt obligated to solve this problem as soon as possible. After all, Zetsu said that the other party was just a 12-year-old kid. He already possesses such terrifying strength now, who knows how strong he will be after a few more years when he becomes an adult. Pain has always claimed to be a god and he is quite confident in his own strength. But he is confident, not conceited. Enemies like this are better nipped in the bud. Only a fool would wait for the opponent to grow to the peak before making a move. The cause of the incident seems to be that Kakuzu wanted to take the head of one of his companions in exchange for a bounty, so the two sides clashed. Zetsu said. Pain. Kakuzu is good at everything. His ability to make money is also very strong, and he has made a lot of money for the Akatsuki organization. But there is one thing about him that is not so good. He has too much desire for money. Sometimes Pain even wondered that if someone offered 2 billion for his head, would Kakuzu fight even when he knew he couldn't win? That's not to say Kakuzu is an idiot. It's that money has already become an obsession in his heart. It's the same as Pain wants to make the 5 great ninja villages feel pain so that peace can be achieved. This is their obsession. Does Pain not know the risks of doing this? He knows, but he doesn't care. Even if he has to sacrifice his own life, as long as he can get the result he wants, he is very willing. So, Pain could understand Kakuzu's obsession with money before. But today, when he heard that Kakuzu provoked such a powerful enemy for the Akatsuki just for a bounty, Pain felt deeply distressed from the bottom of his heart. Pain, what are you going to do? Zetsu looked at Pain in front of him and asked him. Pain thought for a moment and said, leave him alone for the time being. Tell Kakuzu and Hidan to pay attention in the future. Tell them to not make such unnecessary enemies for the Akatsuki. We are mainly in the development stage now, and it is not appropriate to confront anyone strong. Is that what you think? Zetsu nodded and understood. That's fine, I'll go down first. Pain didn't speak, watching Zetsu's figure disappear before his eyes. Pain, are we really going to ignore this Yagami Ryosuke? Konan on the side couldn't help asking. Just now she had been listening by the side, and even she thought that this Yagami Ryosuke might become a hindrance to their plan in the future. She didn't believe Pain would miss that. No, this Yagami Ryosuke will not be our enemy. Unexpectedly, Pain shook his head, saying that Yagami Ryosuke would not be the enemy of their Akatsuki organization. This made Konan a little confused. Why do you think a ninja who can easily defeat Kakuzu and Hidan deliberately hides his strength and acts as a genin? Pain asked Konan back. Is it because of some scruples? Konan thought for a while and guessed. That's right. The village of Konoha is even darker than we imagined. Their high-level officials can't even trust the ninjas of their own village. You have also read the information about Konoha. You should know what will happen to a person that is born in Konoha if they have terrifying talent and strength. Hearing this, Konan recalled the information about Konoha that she had seen before. The Uchiha clan was exterminated, the genius ninja Uchiha Shisui died accidentally, and Uchiha Itachi killed his whole clan and became a rebel. The Nine Tails attacked the village, the fourth Hokage and his wife died, and the third Hokage came back to preside over the overall situation. Hatake Tsukumo's suicide case, and the Sannin going away from Konoha. One after another, everything showed that being born in Konoha, and being too talented was not only not a good thing, but also a bad thing. If one is not careful, it will bring about a disaster of death for yourself. So, can we win over this Yagami Ryosuke? Chapter 98 Stalking a Stalker. It's hard to say for the time being, but since he clearly has top-tier strength even in the Kage level, but is still willing to be a genin in Konoha, then there must be some conspiracy. And his plot must be to counterattack Konoha's top management. Look, sooner or later, he will turn against Konoha's high-level executives. By then, if he fails, it will be the best time for us to win him over. Who said pain only has bronze? He can also think, okay. And what if he wins? Konan asked. How much armed force do you think Konoha will have left after he wins? Pain said with a chuckle. Yes. Konan's eyes lit up. No matter who loses or who wins, both sides will inevitably lose their strength. Originally, after Konoha had experienced so many internal strife, their strength had already been severely weakened. Then if there is another chaos, the whole village will be on the verge of destruction. By that time, they could go to Konoha to capture the Nine Tails Jinchuriki and recover the tailed beasts. Who could stop their organization? If you think about it this way, this time Kakuzu and Hidan not only did nothing wrong, but they also did something very good. They allowed them to discover Ryosuke, a powerful ninja hidden in Konoha in advance. 12-year-old peak Kage level. Konan couldn't help feeling a little envious. On a cliff more than 10 kilometers away from Mangekyo, Zetsu, who just left Mangekyo, came out of the ground. You're here. On the edge of the cliff, Uchiha Obito, wearing a spiral mask, revealed one eye and looked back. Is what I heard from White Zetsu about Kakuzu and Hidan true? Obito asked. Zetsu nodded, and then repeated what he had said to Pain before. Pain intends to ignore this Yagami Ryosuke for the time being. He said at the end. Pain's decision is correct. At this time, the Akatsuki organization should continue to accumulate strength. Now is not the best time to start recovering the tailed beasts. Obito nodded, approving Pain's decision. However, is this Yagami Ryosuke really that strong? Obito looked at Zetsu and asked him. Very strong, whether it's taijutsu or ninjutsu, they are all at the Kage level, especially his ninjutsu. His sea-level water release is comparable to an S-level water release. But with his young age, he has no fighting skills. Apart from experience, his genjutsu ability has also not been seen yet. Zetsu said. Really? He's just Kage level, not a threat. By the way, does he have any bloodline succession limits? Obito asked. Yes, a kind of constitution-type bloodline succession limit. He can use his flesh/body to directly resist B-rank lightning release without being injured. This is the information Zetsu had heard in Konoha. After rescuing Kakuzu and Hidan, Zetsu immediately went to inquire some information about Ryosuke. Then he went to report the matter to Pain and Obito in front of him. It's just physical strength? Zetsu absolutely nodded. Then there's no need to pay attention. Obito waved his hand. Obviously he didn't hold such a bloodline succession limit in high regard. After all, no matter how strong the defense, can it be stronger than the third Raikage? Even third Raikage was still killed by the combined effort of Iwagakure's tens of thousands of ninja troops. Not to mention, Obito fears this type of ninja the least. On the contrary, ninjas like Namake's Minato, who are not very powerful in terms of defense, but are extremely maneuverable, intelligent, and extremely skillful in combat, are his nemesis. A powerful brash, Obito thinks he doesn't need to care about this kind of person. Even if he is only 12 years old this year, and he may become stronger in the future, so what? No matter how strong he is, can he shatter the space and hurt himself in the Kamui state? Pay attention to the situation on Pain's side. This guy is not so easy to deceive. If there is anything wrong, let me know immediately, and I will deal with him. Obito ordered Zetsu. Zetsu nodded, then got into the ground and disappeared. Rin, it's almost time. I'm about to succeed. Just wait for me for a few more years. Obito looked at a silver moon in the distance, and a girl's sweet smile appeared in his mind. Konoha, Yagami Ryosuke's home in the room, the window was open. Ryosuke was sitting on the roof, looking at the moon in the sky in a daze. By the way, Akatsuki Kagaya has been sealed on the moon for so many years. Is she awake all the time, or is she always asleep? If she's in a sane state, wouldn't it be crazy? For thousands of years, she has been alone, unable to eat or play, and she could only constantly recall the betrayal of her sons. Just thinking about it is enough to drive people crazy. She probably spent it in a deep sleep. Ryosuke thought silently. More than an hour later, Is it finally gone? The corners of Ryosuke's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a smile. He and Yugao had parted ways and gone home separately. While on the road, Ryosuke felt that someone was following him, but he didn't expose him. It wasn't until just now that the person who followed and monitored him left. Swish! Ryosuke made a shadow clone. Follow and see where he goes. Ryosuke ordered the shadow clone. The shadow clone nodded expressionlessly, and then used the body flicker technique to disappear from the roof. There is a high probability that he is one of Danzo's men, but he may also be under Sarutobi Hiruzen. When I was in Hokage's office today, there was a person hiding in the dark. I wonder who that person is. Ryosuke hadn't activated his dojutsu in advance, so he only sensed the existence of a person. But who it is, he didn't know. A few minutes later, the shadow clone following the stalker watched him walk into a building. On the surface, this building was just a very ordinary shop. But it was late at night, and the shop was closed early. And this ninja directly opened the back door and walked in. The shadow clone thought for a while, and also sneaked up silently, without being noticed by the person in front. After he opened a secret door, revealing a passage extending diagonally downwards behind, the shadow clone stopped and did not continue to follow. It's so sneaky, so it must be the route. The shadow clone thought to himself, and after leaving the shop, he took the initiative to disperse the chakra in his body. Boom! With this, the shadow clone disappeared. Ryosuke, who was at home, also received this memory from the shadow clone. Chapter 99, Bonus Chapter, Walking in Plain Sight. Sure enough, I knew it was Danzo, that bastard. Ryosuke had an expression of, as I expected. But, is that the place where the route's original entrance is located? He thought that it would be hidden in a mountain or something. Since I have found the entrance to the route, why not visit Danzo now? Ryosuke smiled, then stood up, swiped and disappeared on the roof. In the room, a shadow clone replaced Ryosuke and lied on the bed, pretending to be asleep. As for Ryosuke himself, at this time, he had used the transformation technique to transform into another person. He had even put on a mask in order to not be seen through. He bought this mask casually at a street stall when he was outside. Mainly because he thought that it was very similar to Obito's spiral mask. He didn't expect it to come in handy so soon. Konoha's underground route headquarters, the internal passages were very complicated. If there was no acquaintance to lead the way, the intruder would probably get lost by himself, and then walk into a room with a trap in a daze. At this time in the passageway at the entrance, Ryosuke, disguised as Doko, was walking freely like he was taking a stroll in the garden. He didn't deliberately hide his figure. However, those root ninjas didn't seem to see him, and Ryosuke passed directly in front of them. It was weird. Shino's talent entry is really powerful, reducing the sense of presence by 15 times. Coupled with my genjutsu, it's like I have entered a land without people. At this time, Ryosuke had activated his Mangekyo, and under the blessing of its enhanced genjutsu ability, and combined with the effect of the talent entry, invisible, he could even appear directly in front of these root ninjas. None of them could sense the existence of Ryosuke. Then, Ryosuke stopped and started opening door after door for a while. It was like he was going shopping at the root. However, those root ninjas who were patrolling completely ignored his existence. A second ago, Ryosuke just opened a door and walked into a room. The root ninja who passed by the door in the next second clearly saw the door of the room open, and was even took a look inside, but he couldn't see Ryosuke, who was openly standing in the room. He closed the door easily. Ryosuke in the room was almost suffocating because he was controlling his laughter. He really thought that this scene was particularly funny. After walking around for a while, he collected a lot of biopheromones from the root ninjas that he encountered along the way and stored them in the warehouse. At this moment, Ryosuke opened another door. He noticed that there was a laboratory inside this room. All kinds of bottles and cans were piled up together, and the contents inside were all human tissues. Disgusting. Ryosuke saw that some researchers were doing some research on some human tissues, so he walked to the side and observed for a while. Then he realized that he couldn't understand it at all. He really doesn't understand scientific research at all. At this time someone came through the door. Ryosuke looked back and found that the person who had come in was Danzo. This old fellow. Ryosuke looked Danzo up and down. The latter was completely unaware that the target he wanted to kill was standing right in front of him, and that target was even complaining about his ugly appearance. How's the research on the Uchiha's bloodline succession limit going? As soon as Danzo came in, an old man in his 50s or 60s greeted him. He was probably the supervisor here or something. Facing Danzo's inquiry, the supervisor answered while wiping his sweat. He looked very nervous. At present, we haven't researched an effective cloning method, but Lord Danzo, please give us a little more time. We will definitely be able to research some results. The supervisor was full of assurances, but Danzo looked at him with increasingly distrustful eyes. It was not that he believed that the executive had betrayed him. After all, the researchers here had all been implanted with curse seals by him, and it was impossible for them to betray him. The reason why he didn't trust him was because he didn't trust the other party's ability. Danzo remembered that the last time he came, this guy had used the same rhetoric. He said to give him a little more time, and then said that the research results would be available soon. But how long had it been? This sentence made Danzo's ears grow calluses. He still hasn't seen the result. How could Danzo trust his abilities? But these researchers were arranged by Danzo to do research in the root space, which in itself shows that they are indeed capable. But, now it seems that the ability is there, but not much. Compared to Orochimaru, they are not on the same level at all. This made Danzo very disappointed. Sure enough, I still have to rely on Orochimaru for now. Danzo shook his head in disappointment. Forget it, you won't be needed for the next research. Just sort out the previous research materials, and I will order someone to come and take them away later. You won't be needed for this project in the future. Hearing Danzo's words, the supervisor in front of him was instantly terrified. He fell to his knees on the ground with a plop. Lord Danzo, please give us another chance. I beg you, sir. We can do it this time. Danzo looked coldly at the supervisor kneeling on the ground. After a while, he said, this time, I will give you another chance. Another research target will be sent over in a few days, and I will hand it over to you. Remember. This time, I don't want to hear any more words about a little more time, understand? The supervisor kneeling on the ground in front of him quickly made a promise of gratitude. On the other hand, Ryosuke had a strange expression on his face. He always felt that the research target Danzo just mentioned was him. Chapter 100. The first use of plunder. After all, Danzo had just recently sent someone to assassinate him. Ryosuke was almost sure that this guy was talking about him. Are you planning to keep an eye on me? Ryosuke sneered. Danzo had a good idea. But it was just a pity that his ability was a little bit worse than Ryosuke's. And his plan was even known in advance by Ryosuke. Now, it was even more impossible for him to succeed. Following Danzo out of that lab, Ryosuke watched him turn east and west, and he came to a room that was filled with various files. This time the task failed. The main cause was that unknown explosion, but what caused this explosion? Danzo muttered to himself, picking up a scroll from the cabinet. He opened the scroll. What was recorded in it was the information of some ninjas who were good at making large explosions in the ninja world. He flipped through. After a while, he finally found some clues in a piece of information from Iwagakure. This one is called Deidara. He has been fond of all kinds of explosions since he was a child. He's even a disciple of the Tsuchikage, and a rebel. Is this Deidara responsible for this explosion? Danzo held the information in his hand, thinking about the possibilities. And Ryosuke on the side leaned over and looked at Danzo with a smile in his eyes. Deidara, I didn't expect Danzo to have information about this explosive artist. But is he suspecting Deidara? That's right, this guy likes explosions so much, and he's a rebel, so it's entirely possible that he did it. If Ryosuke himself wasn't the instigator, even would wonder if Deidara had done it. After all, besides Deidara, who else in the ninja world can make such a large-scale explosion? Huh? Who's there? Danzo was wondering if it was possible that Deidara had done it, when he suddenly felt a throbbing sensation in his bandaged right eye. He subconsciously turned his head to look to the side. Next second, puff! A flash of blood. Danzo let out a muffled grunt, and quickly took a few steps back. Looking at the mysterious man wearing a spiral mask in front of him, he had a horrified expression. It's you. Danzo mistook the other party for the guy who called himself Uchiha Madara, whom he had seen last time. But upon closer inspection, there were some differences between the two. Last time the guy who called himself Uchiha Madara was one-eyed, but the one in front of him who was also wearing a spiral mask showed both eyes. But both of them have Mangekyo Sharingan. Danzo had never seen the pair of Mangekyo of the masked man in front of him. He felt uncomfortable being stared at by these eyes. Damn Uchiha! Danzo cursed secretly, then shouted and immediately called for helpers. Attack alone? It's been a long time since Danzo has fought in person. Coupled with the opponent's weird way of appearing on the stage, and detaining his right eye as soon as he made a move, Danzo was scared. He didn't dare to fight this masked guy alone. At this moment, Ryosuke was holding a Sharingan that was still bleeding with one hand. There was also a playful smile on the corner of his mouth under the mask. Plunder. Next second the Sharingan in his hand shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, the pattern of the Mangekyo gradually regressed back to the shape of 3 tomo, and then the 3 tomo completely disappeared and it became just an ordinary eye. At this time, Ryosuke sensed that his left eye had another pupil technique. Kotoamatsukami left, it can temporarily hypnotize the target, manipulate their thinking, and make them become their own puppet unconsciously. But this manipulation must be done at close range. And there must be no interruption. Once the technique is interrupted, the target will recover, but he will not realize that there was something wrong with him just now. The advantage is that this technique can be performed without eye contact. And with Ryosuke's bonus of 500% increase in the power of the pupil technique, the effect of this Kotoamatsukami had become even more stunning. The operation distance was longer, the effect was very good, and he could even control multiple targets. And, if he used the Mangekyo in his left eye to cast Genjutsu, the effect would be doubled. This is also the basic ability of this Mangekyo, which could be considered a passive effect. As expected of the eyes of Uchiha Shursui. Unfortunately I only got one. It would be nice to have both. Ryosuke thought greedily, while casually throwing away this useless eye. My Kotoamatsukami. Danzo didn't know that this eye's pupil technique had already been plundered by Ryosuke. All he saw was Ryosuke throwing this eye on the ground recklessly and stomping on it. Where the hell did this guy come from? Why would he destroy this Mangekyo in front of him? Danzo was furious. Just in time, the root ninjas also arrived here. Lord Danzo. Quick, protect Lord Danzo. Where is the intruder? These root ninjas rushed to protect Danzo behind them, while scanning around, looking for traces of the intruders. However, Danzo was stunned to find out that the group of root ninjas under him turned a blind eye to the masked man standing in front of them. Bastards! He is ahead of you. Danzo cursed angrily. But the root ninjas around him looked at Danzo with dumbfounded expressions. In front? But there is nothing in front of them. Ryosuke watched this scene with a smile. He had just used the Mangekyo in his left eye to cast a genjutsu to confuse these root ninjas. But he deliberately didn't use it on Danzo, and found that the effect was indeed much better than before. It's you. You did this. Danzo didn't believe that these people under him would tease him, so this could only be caused by the masked man. That's right, it's me, what can you do? Ryosuke changed his voice and said arrogantly. You bastard. Danzo clenched his fists, never before had he wanted to kill someone so much. Everyone, use ninjutsu in the direction of my finger. Danzo didn't care. Even if this archive room was destroyed, he wanted this masked man in front of him to die.